we were talking about the No Kings rallies. And one of the things I don't think I got a chance to talk to you about, did you see like all those different instances of people that were like just straight antagonizing the protesters? You had one particular guy with the mask on, gun on his side, walking through a crowd. You had this one guy with a rifle. Somebody they had to like basically get the rifle. I mean, just basically tackle the guy to get the rifle out. They even had to tackle this one particular woman who was in the crowd. She was like Karen on steroids,
Oh
just
yeah.
talking mad
Yeah.
smack.
Yeah.
And then she was about to grab her gun, and everybody jumped on her. There are like a ton of this out there,
Yeah.
but none of this is really being reported. I'm getting all of this information from people's videos on their IG, YouTube. I'm seeing TikTok videos, but none of that is reported at all. I I'm trying to understand. What's your take on that, my man?
Well, I mean, it's something that seems to happen in a lot of protests lately, not just the No Kings, but um, I'm not surprised. I guess I've become jaded to the fact that they tend to not report those
Mm-hmm.
side troublemakers, and I have you can be of two minds with that. I mean, one, you don't want to. There is the school of thought that you don't want to make celebrities for a day of these people who are ill, doing
Mm-hmm.
these things in the crowd because you might inspire more to do it.
The main reason for me why I hate that it's not being reported is because when you have the orange guy and all of his lackeys
Mhm.
keep trying to say that the protests are out of hand,
Right,
all this violence is happening.
right,
You got this craziness and these straight up lies that they're pushing, and but right there in front of them is this woman is trying to point out some guys on a balcony taking pictures
right,
and all this craziness. Point to the person walking through the crowd with the gun.
right.
Point to the person with the rifles pushing against people. Hell, most of them didn't even point out the woman, the reporter from Australia, being
Okay.
targeted and being shot in the leg,
Yeah.
in the back,
Right.
in the leg.
Right.
And we were talking the other day about the messaging for the Dems, uh, how Senator Padilla should have handled that situation even more. But for me, I'm looking at this lack of reporting because you said that with Senator Padilla, they should be talking about they should be pointing out all the crap they're doing, just like Kristi Noem did.
Hmm.
But then you see on C-SPAN, and I sent you the clip. I wanted you to peep it
Hmm.
of the senator just breaking down all the misinformation. She calls out the people on Project 2025. She talks about all these little details. And she approached a lot of the things, like you said, that needed to be done.
Hmm.
But I guess when you look at the way she was doing it, it's maybe it's not sexy. Maybe it doesn't entertain in a manner, but the substance is there. I'm at the point where I'm saying to myself, and I want other people to look at, everybody doesn't fight the same way. But I think that the information, once people hear the information and they get it, they will understand. But you can't get that information out there with all of the things that you have to deal with right wing media, Fox. But I think that it's our responsibility for us, if we want to help the Dems, want to help the messaging, I think we need to show more of that during the day. The time that we spend criticizing them, let's point out the things that they're talking about that are of importance.
Well,
That's
I would agree with you there, very much so. But and that wouldn't be the first time. I mean, there are a lot of very clever. I don't clever is the wrong word. Very insightful, very information rich things that are said on the floor of the House and
mhm.
in the Senate. And if you watch C-SPAN, which very few people do, You
Except for
would
you and
see
I.
that. You would see that. What needs to be done, which we've talked about as well, but not in this context specifically. If that senator or that congressperson went on, was able to get on other platforms and do the exact same thing, because they're very, it was very clear, and I think it's easily understood. But unfortunately, for the most part, C-SPAN, it's not riveting television. So unless you're really like somebody who's really into watching what goes on the House floor or something like that, you're not going to watch C-SPAN, but you might watch Joe Rogan, or you might watch.
But once again, that what you just said is why I said that maybe that's something that we should do, because we're talking about they're not approaching and saying these things. Well, when I think that's why I'm always baffled when people say that, because I'm watching C-SPAN.
Mm-hmm.
I see this.
Mm-hmm.
I see all this information
Very few
out there.
people do.
Very few people do.
Right.
And that's why I say when you look at the DNC, okay, you got to start taking those sound bites and putting them in place. You got to send it to somebody that you got to send it to the algorithms where Joe Rogan is at. All of these Candace Owens, all these people. You need to put it in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, you need to boost it so that this can be seen, because that's solid information. That is attacking, and the things that we say need to be attacked, calling them out in their face. And I was shocked that the guys from Project 2025 were just answering the questions. Right. I was really shocked about that. And I think it's part of their arrogance, their brash. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was on that trip.
Yeah. I mean, they can't. It's in writing. It's in a book. It's in a report. They can't BS about it, especially if they're under oath. So that that was a bold move just to put out that report. I couldn't believe it.
I thought it was insane. And what's so insane about that they put it out is that it's what they're doing. No matter how hard you try to tell people, read it. Yes, it's 925 pages, but you can take time each day and go through it. The amount of time that we spend scrolling through social media, people could have been scrolling through that. But not only that, there are people out there that were reporting on it, pointing out what sections you can see this in, showing the plan in full depth. But it doesn't matter because, like I said, these guys on C-SPAN, they're being questioned, and they're being straight up about what they were doing.
Well, right now, see, here's the thing, though. As far as I know, I haven't read all 9. I've read some of it. Haven't read all 900. I think I may have read 50 pages total here and there. So that said, from what I can see, there's not much I'm aware of that they've done so far in Project 2025 that could have been stopped now. See, that's the problem. That's the problem with the thing. The problem is people should have read it been familiar with it more before the election. Because now that Trump has the executive power of the presidency, and both the House and the Senate are controlled by Republicans, there's not much. I mean, the stuff that can be challenged is being challenged in the courts, but they're going to be able to execute, I believe, from what I'm familiar with, on pretty much everything in that document until they are stopped by the Congress or the courts, and it looks like they're not ready to even respect the courts.
The executive orders are the key. Right. It's you throw enough of them out there, something's going to stick. And that's what this is all about. Okay, they're going to stop this. Let me give a new executive order, like the newest one he has about the VA,
right?
In Virginia, basically saying that you have the right to be able. A doctor has a right to not be able to treat somebody if they're a Democrat. I'm sitting here saying to myself, what in it? And he's talking about our veterans. Mm-hmm. What's going on with this? But the executive orders, it's red tape that works in their favor.
Correct. That's so my
Yeah,
point. So my point is,
yeah,
while yes, I think there is value in knowing what is in Project 2025 and informing the
uh-huh.
public, I think unfortunately there's not much we can do with that information now, other than know it's coming. Which there's some help in that. There's some knowledge in that. I mean, it's better than being blindsided. But they've been very forthright and open about what they're going to do and what they're doing. The problem is that a lot of the stuff in Project 2025, what we should have done is inform the public, done a better job of informing the public of what's in that document and the potential dangers of that plan being executed. Now we're in a situation where we're hoping that we're depending upon the checks and balances of our system to kick in. But if but they're all run by humans, by individuals. So if the
Yeah.
individuals don't do what the job that position was supposed to do, oversight, or in some cases stopping them legally, then we're kind of stuck, because the chief executive has the power of the executive order.
It's real tough, and I agree. But you said something that, once again, I'm like, how? Should have did a better job of getting it out there. Taraji P. Henson got everybody's attention at the BET Awards, talking about Project 2025. That's when a lot of brothers just first heard about it.
Correct.
So it got out there and people started listening. But you know what happened after that? You have spots like, you got shows like Steve Harvey, The Breakfast Club. They don't talk about it. They don't carry that momentum and stress the importance of it, because they're in a position where they're one of the urban platforms that we see a lot of, but they're not in control of what they're able to present. Them and Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
So everybody's watching them. They see Taraji. They're watching. They're not touching on it too much. Then letting it kind of fade out a little bit. So now it doesn't become important. So all that momentum that Taraji had is gone. So
Well,
when you have somebody like you and I try to talk about it, somebody like David Pakman tries to talk about it, the Majority Report, they try to talk about it. It's boring to them. And then you have to deal with all the brothers, the Byron Donalds, and all of them just saying Project 2025 is bullshit. That's the Dems, the libs, they're trying to scare you.
okay.
But
They
but how do you fight that?
well, the way what you said, what could we have done? Okay, I'll tell you what I could have done. I'll take
All
ownership
right.
myself.
Okay.
And this is not something that I do, but this is something I could have done. I could have told, because now we all have, granted, we all our reach is limited depending on how many followers we have and our platforms, but I could have made a video every day saying Project 2025. One of the things in it is they're going to go in, and within the first couple of days, they're going to fire all the inspector generals. What does that mean? It means that the people that are supposed to do oversight on agencies are not going to be. They're not going to be exist. They're not going to be there. So therefore, somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr. Can
Go in there and fuck things up.
yeah, blow things up, blow up the CDC, blow up everything, and there's nobody there to do oversight on him, other than the Congress, which, if they're in lockstep with the Heritage Foundation and the Trump administration, that's not going to happen. So just
No.
so granted, that's just an example, but yeah, there's things that could have been done. But I think what the next step that needed to be done, all hindsight is 2020, unfortunately, is that what Taraji P. Henson did was bring everybody, or bring a large group of people in her platform, or who follow her, or recognize her, or list, or watch those awards, that there's such a thing as Project 2025, and it's dangerous, and you should familiarize yourself with that. That was a good thing for her to do, but that doesn't go any there are people that aren't going to do
It
that.
was hype at the moment.
And it was
it was
good.
all good.
It was great
Yeah,
that she did it and was hyped
yeah.
up, but
It faded.
it faded, and I'm finding that the reality of it is that you can say go read Trump Project 2025 till you're blue in the face, and most
Hmm.
people aren't going to do that today. They're just
Right,
not. What
right.
what you're going to have to do, if you have the heart to do it and the will, is keep on hitting people over the head with a message and telling them themselves, and maybe that will inspire them to actually go to the text. But I just don't think that happens enough, and it's not going to
Right,
happen.
right. And what I was happy about with Taraji doing that, I was really hoping that people would take the time and read and see that how all the things that they were doing have really big time direct impacts on us as black folks. Like let's just talk about the abortion, how they want to have a nationwide ban on abortion.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how fact checkers might want to try to say, well, it doesn't say that exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, it does. It does. And when you look at the Georgia abortion laws, it's really upsetting because you just had a situation where this young black woman has been dead for like 4 months, and she just they kept her alive for 4 months because of that abortion law,
Right.
because she was pregnant,
Right.
just had a 1 pound baby. Now the family can take off life support.
Right.
Why did the family even have to go through that bullshit?
Yeah.
That the doctors, most in a situation like that, the doctors would have been she would have been pronounced dead a long time ago. If the baby could have survived, they would have worked on that. But to keep the mother alive, that's just cruel. That's not pro life at
No.
all.
No. No. There's some horrendous things in there, and stories like that have to be out there
Mm-hmm.
as well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for people, I think, to really get an idea of how these laws and how this policy can have a
Mm-hmm.
bearing on their life and and the lives of family members. So they got their shit together. I'll tell you that. I think that was one thing, at least from my point of view. I mean, I knew that they were. I always knew. I personally underestimated their organization.
Or
The
the Heritage
the
Foundation.
right, yeah. Well,
You,
no, not underestimate the Heritage Foundation, but I didn't
mm.
think that their influence. I thought their influence was waning a bit.
Why would you think that?
Well, because you know the country had become moderate, and then it swung over to like the the Trump administration, but
Mm-hmm.
he got voted out of office. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought that places like the Heritage Foundation, they're not going to die. They'll always be the Heritage Foundation to be here as long as the freaking. I mean, that's America, okay?
Right,
Heritage
right.
Foundation is going to be there. I just didn't think that I thought their influence was among a small, relatively small cadre of a cabal of intense conservatives, and that
Mm-hmm.
they weren't going to be able to get enough people on board. That's why they have Trump. They
What?
couldn't get to critical mass. Now they have
Right,
Trump,
right.
who they don't really like, I don't think, but they have
No,
Trump because Trump can brought them enough critical mass, enough people,
right.
so they could fill these positions up with lawmakers that would do what they want to do. And
But
um,
you know what? The Heritage Foundation, I look at them, first of all, they understand the system. The people that founded this
it's their
country,
system, yeah.
it's their system. So I always look at the Heritage Foundation, and I'm getting ready to go into my Star Wars analogy here, but I look at them as playing the long game,
Mhm.
like Palpatine.
Yeah,
Okay, so you know I've known about them since the days of Reagan.
yeah,
That's yeah. So when you look at everything that goes on, they're taking their time bit by bit, positioning themselves in certain ways, and then when Obama came, that was like a key moment for them to be able to start recruiting new people and restructuring their plan so that hey, we're going to get all of our people to see that, hey, look, we're losing our country. They got this black guy. He's in charge now. So what do? And it was my big fear. They go and get the most racist, idiotic person that has a platform that they could just milk. They go get a reality TV star, failed businessman, but has an image and persona that they can build upon and work around to get things done the way they want to get it done. You're right. He's only a vessel. They don't care how much destruction he causes, but they looked at the long game and they have positioned themselves so that now, when the opportunity comes about, they take full advantage of them. They understand the system. They work within the system and they can abuse the system because they know how to. That's why I thought Project 2025, I thought it was so important for people to see what they were trying to do so that it can be countered. Like you said, all these executive orders, the only thing that's really helping us right now is the branch of government that's not Congress or the executive. It's the judicial branch. These federal judges are helping us with the fight right now. But in terms of the influence that the Heritage Foundation had, money always speaks.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so if you can have 1,000 people at a company, you know, you may not have all those 1,000 people on your side, but if you got the top 2 or 3 people on your side, you have power and influence, and that's why I always felt that hey, I can never discount these racist assholes on anything. So hearing about Project 2025, seeing what's going on with the red guy and all that, I would never think that their power has waned. All I want to do is understand who has it now, who's doing what, and how can we identify it and keep it from becoming more of a problem. That's the way I look at it with the Heritage Foundation. And nobody took them serious. Like you just said, you didn't think their power was that much.
I didn't say
Can never
I didn't say that. Don't put
Okay,
words in my
okay,
mouth. I didn't
okay.
say
Not
that.
not not
I said
not
that
power. You said you thought the influence had waned a
had
little
waned
bit.
in the general
Yeah.
Absolutely. I thought that.
Okay.
I didn't
Okay.
think they didn't have any money. I knew they had their big
Mm.
money.
Yeah.
Their special interest is for corporate private America. Okay,
Right.
so I never thought they didn't have any money. I just thought that
Mm.
their influence in the general populace, as far as conservative thought is concerned, I
Mm.
thought it was
Mm.
waning. Okay, where I was wrong, apparently in that assumption, is that I didn't, that they could incorporate somebody like a Trump in their plan that would be able to suck in enough people that
Mm.
aren't conservatives, that aren't rich, that won't benefit from those policies, but are stupid enough to follow this guy so that they
Mm.
can get political power. I didn't think that they had the 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 strategic and very I would say nuanced approach to gaining power in this country.
Were they able
I
to
never
gain?
dismissed them, and
Uh huh.
they were always going to be they're always going to be a force because of how much resources they have. But I
Right.
just thought
Right.
the thought in this country had changed as far as that's concerned. They were able to take Trump and take an issue like immigration, which fed on the prejudices of America, and
Right.
here we are. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I totally, I'm not surprised that I never thought that they weren't going to try to execute on Project 2025. And when
Mm.
Trump was saying, "Oh, I don't have anything to do with that," I knew that was a lie too, because
Right.
all of those people were in Trump's circle.
Yeah, they're in a circle. They're working for him. They're
Right.
being hired
But
by his
that
administration.
is what he
Yeah.
was saying when he was questioned
Yeah.
about it before the election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's the Heritage Foundation. I don't have anything to do with that. I don't even know what's in it. That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Now that was again, like most of his lies. I thought that was an obvious lie, but
Mm.
there are enough people who seem to want to believe it. Although I don't think a lot of people who um, voted for him on the basis of Project 2025. But certainly, people should have been voting against him on that basis.
I can understand why people were voting on him, period. It still just doesn't make any sense to me. If you're a veteran, the guy says you're suckers and losers, why would you vote for him? If you're from an Arab nation, Middle East, and he calls your country shithole country, he puts a ban on your people, why would you vote for him? You're looking at people from Cuba, Haiti, Mexico. It's straight. Then when you look at our brothers, you look at that. It's like we have no understanding. This understanding of what will happen if you just look at one issue. And the one issue that you're looking at, the guy isn't even on your side about it. We have a hard time fighting this propaganda machine of the right. Everything that we're looking at, the main reason we can't get this out is because our voice isn't loud enough. We don't have the megaphone that's needed
Correct.
to get it out there. But I will say, when you have situations that happen, you need to seize on it. And when you look at this fool at the G7, when he started rambling his mouth, talking all these lies, man, to have Mark Carney just cut him off.
Yeah.
I, did it make you feel as good as it made me feel? Because I loved every second of that shit.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't get not really. I mean, I didn't want to hear what he had to say, but see, I would feel good if somehow it bothered Trump. But Trump didn't even want to be at the G7. That's why he like got up out there and said, "Oh, there was a bombing over there in Iran. Warm up the jet. I'm out of this motherfucker." He didn't even want to be there. But it was okay. It was okay. But see, I just don't. All the times Trump can get embarrassed and it's cut off like that. There was a time when that used to make me happy and
I need something, man. I
I
need
get it.
something from this. Yeah,
I
I
get
need
it.
something
I
from this
get it.
guy.
But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I just was glad that he did get cut off, that he didn't get to go on and just start talking about, you know, we got, Biden let 20 some million people in this country and
Oh
all
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. These numbers, I'm like, do you realize every time they give a number, I'm like, you basically saying that half the country is gone now.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, 21 million
Right.
immigrants. I'm like, dude, those numbers don't add up.
Right.
The stuff that he says,
Or,
it just blows
it,
my mind, and I'm just baffled that people just keep feeding into it.
yeah.
But that's, I mean, I guess that's the world we live in now. If you can't get your message across in 22 words or less, then you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose the battle. So I guess that's what it is. But I want to end with your thoughts on what happened with Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz.
Oh, well,
Dude, did you see that?
well, like I told you when you sent me the clip, I said that,
Yeah,
I don't like, I really dislike Tucker Carlson. I really do.
yeah,
But
yeah. Me too.
but
Me too.
I mean, I don't like using the word hate, but he's right there on the border. But
Mm,
he was actually questioning him the way a journalist is supposed to question a politician who's talking out of his ass, which
mm,
Ted Cruz does on the regular.
right.
Again, while I enjoyed watching Ted Cruz frying up there, I would have liked it better if it was coming from a journalist who was really trying to get at the truth, rather than what I believe. I believe that Tucker Carlson just wanted to embarrass Ted Cruz because he hates him.
Yeah,
That's what I think it was, which it was
yeah.
very easy to do, you know,
Hmm.
because Ted Cruz doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, Ted Cruz
Hmm.
did have, I mean, there were some facts that Tucker Carlson put out there. Well, like the number of people that are in Iran, the population of Iran. Okay, I don't know if that's material. to the actual conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
He
think
was asking them questions
but
that,
when he asked them a
yeah,
question about the makeup of the population, that was a good question. About the ethnic makeup or the and all of that. He's a U.S. senator who's going to be. He gets consulted about war. He should know that stuff, or else you shouldn't even be talking about it publicly. So I do
right,
agree with
right,
him there.
right. I just thought that Tucker Carlson, I just felt that his whole purpose of that was just to get under Ted Cruz's skin.
That
Uh,
and
yeah,
also don't get this confused either. Well, again, I don't have any proof of this. It's just by his actions. By his actions, Tucker Carlson, I believe, is a Russian op. Okay, by his own behavior, I've come to that
right.
conclusion. I have no evidence. He and Iran is an ally of Russia. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so any type of military action that the U.S. might possibly take against Iran would be frowned upon by Russia. So for
Mm-hmm.
Tucker Carlson to be clowning Ted Cruz about possibly using U.S. Military might to support Israel in this conflict is partially doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin. Also, that's all I'm saying. So that I didn't, that wasn't. I didn't lose that. But anytime that Ted Cruz gets clowned on publicly, I'm there for it. You know what I mean? I mean, he was, he's an idiot, but it was
Mm-hmm.
there was some other stuff going on there, and I think part of it
Mm-hmm.
was he personally doesn't like Ted Cruz, and the other part was that he doesn't want that Iran thing to happen, and it's not because he's not a warmonger; it's because Putin doesn't want it to happen.
All right, then, man. Well, look, next time, man, I want us to talk about the WNBA. A lot that's going on in the WNBA right now. And there's some things that are really starting to irk me. And the biggest thing, really, that's really starting to irk me is how this racial aspect is really taking over the game. The way that they're treating Angel Reese, the me bounds, we're not even talking about Collier with the Lynx and how good of a season she's having.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have this particular, there was a particular meme the other day where this person basically said, we've waited for the WNBA 30 years to have our MJ. And now we have it in Caitlin Clark. See, that's the crap that pisses me off. See, I like Caitlin Clark.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like her fans.
Yep.
Just
Well,
like I'm a Cowboys fan, but I am compared to those idiots who always say Super Bowl this year. Caitlin Clark is a good player, okay? She's a good player. But when you start saying things like, we've been waiting 30 years, that means you haven't paid attention to Breonna Stewart, Cheryl Swoops,
they
gosh.
haven't. Those people haven't watched the WNBA.
They haven't watched the game, but these are the people that are ruining it because this hype of getting on this one particular woman and trying to say she's all this and great. She didn't win in college. Breonna Stewart won 4 championships in college. Paige Buchers, she won in college. This is what bothers me.
Okay, but we can talk
You
about it. We
can't.
can talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it, but basically, it's just something that stop dissing those that came before her.
I'm with
Respect.
you. I hear you. I agree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. But unfortunately, this is going to be this. I'm playing devil's advocate here because
Yeah.
I was like one of my favorite. I'm a old school WNBA fan. Katie Smith was one of my favorite players. So I mean,
Okay.
I just followed it from day one. But I think in order for the WNBA to start bringing in the money they want to bring in, you got to bring in all the idiots too. I just think that's where it's going to come.
I think that's short-term thinking. I look at the NBA right now. You still got people trying to recycle Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is not going to help a team win a championship.
Right.
And I don't want anything tarnishing Kevin Durant, LeBron, Steph. I don't want anything tarnishing their legacy. But it's time for them to go. They've made their money. yeah, you love the game, but we're not even paying attention to how good the series is between OKC and Indiana
You
because
you're making my point for me. That's what I'm telling you.
yeah,
You're telling
but
there are all kinds of idiots. You know, the NBA is big. They make all kinds of money there. And what you hear are a bunch of people with hot takes who don't know the game, who haven't followed anything, who will
right,
look at somebody and say, he's the best shooter of all time, and the guy is just a good jump shooter. You hear all of that. That's the same
right.
thing. For the WNBA to get big, you're going to have to tolerate a bunch of people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about it. That's all I'm saying.
You got a bunch of people talking about it that don't know what they're talking about, but then I got people that I know that know the game. Give me an example. I have a friend of mine. I was always talking about why don't we have people watching the WNBA? You know what they kept saying? Well, it's a bad product. It's not a good product. Blah blah blah. Caitlin Clark hasn't changed the fucking product at all. It's the same damn product,
Right.
and you got women that are better than her that are rocking and rolling right now in the league. I mean, let's look at Kelsey Plum. She was the number one pick. She's at LA now, and she's doing work in LA.
Right.
She won a ring with the Aces. She's trying to do the same thing in LA. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about how Collier is dominating for the Lynx. You know, but and I blame that on people like Stephen A. and all those people on these major platforms who keep allowing their boss to keep having them focus on Caitlin Clark instead of the freaking game and the entire league. That, like you said, we'll talk about it next time because I can go on for hours about this because for me, it does a disservice to the culture. It give an example. What does everybody hate about the NBA right now? Too many three-pointers.
Right.
They talk about the All-Star game. There's no defense being played.
Right.
Why is that the case? Because, first of all, you don't have hand-checking anymore, but then you have the Splash Brothers. Curry, yes, that dude is definitely the greatest shooter of all time. But looking at those three-pointers all the time, it takes away from the game.
Right.
It takes away. You got other spots on the court where you could score the basketball. But because of Curry, all these kids want to do is shoot three-pointers. And the rest of the game, they're not learning. And then you get all these other kids come up. So with Caitlin Clark, she shoots a whole bunch of three-pointers. But she ain't driving to the hole big time like Juju Watkins is. So, but anyway, you know, like I said, I love watching Caitlin Clark play. I do. But I want people to love all of the game and why Caitlin Clark wouldn't be where she is without somebody like Cheryl Miller. I'll end it with that. So anyway, we're going to hit everybody up again on Monday. We're going to have a new episode, and we should have some good feedback in terms of what we talked about today, and I want to get some ideas from people on some things that they would like for us to touch on in the future. But for now, my man, take the time to remember, commemorate the day of Juneteenth, and everybody will talk to you soon.
Take care.
COUCHAT.
Peace.
Peace.